I want to thank Melissa and Z for the beautiful meditation music, our own musicians for their wonderful music, and also Pat Favron for reading today. We're continuing our February series, Love is the Answer, and our topic today is Love Within. We've been talking all month about love being the answer to every event and every situation. Love lives within us. It's the essence of who we are, and we can't escape it no matter how hard we try. We can take a lot of effort trying to do it, but we just always come back to that space where love is what we really need. Imagine if everyone on the planet became aware of the love that lives within them, knowing that love is like air. We need it to thrive and to survive. And love is something that connects us across miles, across dimensions. And it connects us to the love within that allows all things to be possible. So here's your question for the week. What's the one choice that you can make today to tap into all the love within you and always make love the answer? One more time. What's the one choice that you can make today to tap into all the love within you and always know that love is the answer? I was just talking about how love is a lot like air. We need it to thrive and to survive. When my granddaughter was not quite 2 and I was keeping her and her siblings, she got really aggravated about something that was happening, and she actually laid down on the floor and held her breath. Well, I stepped right over and went about what I was doing, and it shocked her so much that she started breathing again. And don't worry, I'm not really a bad Grammy. I had a doctor tell me one time when my son used to do the same thing, just let him pass out, he'll start breathing. We need air to breathe, and so when we are doing something like that, when we're trying to hold our breath, eventually we have to take in more air. We all know that air is what has our bodies thrive, and we're programmed to breathe it. So think about when you're feeling stressed and somebody says, oh, just take a deep breath. And a lot of times in our meditations, we say, let's start by taking a deep, nourishing breath. It's because air and that breathing, it's the way our body learns to calm itself. Slowing our respiratory system is actually very calming for our body, which is why we use it for meditations. And love is a lot like air. We need it. It's a way that we actually learn to thrive. Love rests at the center of life. It's a pathway to our divine understanding. It guides us. Love is the guiding force that tells us what our purpose is here on earth. It's a way we really thrive because, like air, we use that love within to become more relaxed and to feel more of who we are, to live in a calmer world. And like air, if we try to avoid love, it's always present because love is right where we are, even if we try to ignore it. Eckhardt Tolle wrote this: love is a state of being. Your love is not outside, it is deep within you. You cannot lose it, and it cannot leave you. Now that's a comforting thought, isn't it? Love, God, is always present, even when we try to turn away. It's that force, that glue that holds the universe together. I'm curious if you've ever lost your connection to the internet. I think at some point we all have lost our internet connections, and it can be very frustrating because we're so dependent upon technology these days. But losing your connection to the internet doesn't mean that the internet is not still there. And just like that, love, when we lose our connection to it, when we become angry about something, when we become unforgiving to someone else. We've lost our connection with the love that lives within, but it's still there. There's been a lot of studies about babies, and those that are hugged and loved thrive so much more than those that aren't touched very much and that aren't shown love. We know that love is a force in our lives that allows us to thrive. I think sometimes because we start off our lives seeking love and getting our needs met from the outside world, that as we grow up, we forget that we can become self-sufficient and that we can find the love and everything that we need right within us. Now, our egos might tell us something different. They might tell us that we need a better body, or we need more intelligence, or we need more prestige or more money. But it's just the ego talking. That's really not where love comes from. We don't get satisfied by having billions of dollars. Yeah, it might make life a little bit easier, but it's not the essence of where our contentment and our calm and our freedom comes from. All of that stuff that the ego tells us about is just an illusion. Deep within each of us is everything that is perfect, just waiting to be tapped into, just waiting for us to recognize it. Love is always connecting us. Has anybody ever unexpectedly walked into a spider web? You know how it gets all over you and it's like you can't get it off, especially if you walked into it and it's on your face. I want you to have that analogy of the strength of the web and how it's so expansive, because I think that love and how we're connected with others is a lot like a web that connects our hearts to all the other hearts of people on the planet and people that have transitioned from the planet. Love is this connecting force. One of the lessons in Course in Miracles says this: God is in everything I see. And you can say it as love is in everything I see. And in that lesson, there's this great line. Here's what it says: behind every veil I have drawn across the face of God, its light remains undimmed. Behind every veil I have drawn across the face of God, its light remains undimmed. I wonder how many veils we have chosen to draw across the face of God. How many veils that we've used to put up and cover up the love that's within us to protect ourselves from something. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote this: every man is a doorway through which the infinite passes into the finite, through which God becomes man, through which the universal becomes individual. Think about that for a minute. You being the doorway through which God becomes man. Do you believe that there's a pattern of your being that is as external as God, as indestructible, and as loving? Think about that. And that pattern is already within you, seeking to manifest through you. Our title today is Love Within. Now, I'm not going to give you an English lesson, but love in that sentence is a noun. Love is a noun. We make it a verb. We say, I love you, I love this or that. Have you ever noticed that we don't say, I peace you or I peace this or that? Love is meant to be something, this essence that lives within us. A thing which is seeking to be the doorway through which we can step into that oneness of life. There was a group of 5 young men, had just headed off to college. They had kind of grown up together. Now they were at college and they were in the same fraternity. And they really became very connected. And it was the time of World War II. So after a couple years of college, they ended up going over to fight the war. Now they wanted to stay connected, and they were all in Europe, and they decided that their troops were all going to be near London at the same time, so they decided to meet in this London hotel. Now 4 of the men had gotten the message and responded, but the 5th one, they weren't able to get in touch with. So here they are. It's one of those blackout dates in London. Here they are standing in the lobby of a hotel. And the hotel had one of those revolving doors. And when it would revolve, the silver from the door would reflect a little bit of light out onto the street. And so they're standing, and one of them actually mentioned this phenomenon. So they're watching how that happens. And as they're watching, a gentleman walks by that looks a whole lot like their 5th friend. And they're looking at each other, so they ran outside, and it was their 5th friend. What I believe is that this is one of the many mysteries of how love connects us. Somehow that other young man, even though he hadn't gotten the notice, was in the right place at the right time, so that these 5 young men in their early 20s could get together and recognize that they could have some time that was fun and remember all the love that they shared. Love is an amazing connecting force. As I think about the story of the young men and the magnificence that having that connecting feeling that love can draw and bring us together. And also thinking about all the veils that I've used in the past sometimes to hide my love within, to protect myself in one way or another, to keep myself from actually opening that doorway through which the infinite becomes the finite. I began to think about this practice that I think is an amazing practice, so I want to share it with you. And it's called Hapono Pono. It's an ancient Hawaiian practice to let go of toxic energies that live within us, and so that we can embrace the full energy of divine thoughts. And it's really a freeing practice. It's all about becoming free, completely free from the past. Allowing yourself to let go of all the things that are in the past, all those veils that have cluttered up your life and kept you from really seeing all of the love within you. And it's a very simple practice. The best part of Hapono Pono, I think, is that you can do it all by yourself. You don't have to have the other person that you're thinking about that's maybe you're aggravated with. And I have used this practice with people that I don't know, like on a customer service call where I wasn't getting any help. And I started using the practice, and all of a sudden the person would say, well, let me see what I can do for you. It's an amazing practice because it connects our hearts to their hearts across those invisible lines of love that connect all of us on the planet. Here's the practice, and it's only 4 steps. The first step is, I'm sorry. Now, you're not necessarily apologizing for something that you did. You're recognizing the harm that the other person has felt in their lives. You know, when we hear about disasters like big fires or hurricanes or tornadoes that demolish people's homes, we are sorry for them. We have regret. We wish that things could be different. And that's the way that we're saying I'm sorry, recognizing that people have in their lives events that have created hurt. And we're letting them know we're sorry about that. The second step is please forgive me. We're not necessarily asking somebody to forgive us for some transgression, though we might be. The purpose here is just to ask for forgiveness for whatever's occurring in their life that is creating harm. And mean it, knowing that we're all connected in some small way. We've played a part in all harm that has come to anyone because we're all one. We were a part of whatever that harm is. The third step is thank you. We're thanking them in advance for releasing whatever it was that they were holding on to, for doing the forgiveness work, for saying, okay, I hear that you're sorry and are asking forgiveness, and I'm going to let it go. So we're saying thank you. Thank you for allowing me to say I'm sorry and to ask forgiveness. The thank you is about bringing gratitude into your heart, about the results that you already know have occurred. You've expressed sorrow, asked for forgiveness, and now you're expressing gratefulness for that happening. In this step, we want to really embrace gratitude. The fourth and final step is I love you. Some people put this step first, but in our particular example today, we're putting it last. You can start with it if you want to. The purpose is to connect your heart, to connect the love within you, and recognize that that love within you is what connects everybody on the planet. You have to mean it when you say I love you. You have to feel it, because love is a very powerful force. So that's it. That's the entire practice. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. It's such a great Hapono Pono is not intended to change the world. It's intended to change your perception of the world. A broken relationship is only broken if you believe it's broken. You might not be connected to someone else, and they may still be very much in love with you. Maybe that's an opportunity to use Hapono Pono. You're not a bad person if you don't have the body that your ego tells you you should have. That's just another example of how we allow some type of veil to cover up that love within us for ourselves. So right now, we're going to actually practice Hapono Pono. Choose something that you already know that's caused you some type of grief, whether it be that you're overweight, that you have anger issues, health problems, relationship issues. Choose some issue right now. Get it in your mind. And then say the phrases over and over again as you watch the screen, and don't start the next phase until the screen changes to the next step. Just continue to repeat each phrase over and over again and really try to mean it. So how was that? Remember, this process works with all kinds of issues. Issues within yourself, issues with other people, and it even works with strangers, as I was talking about on the customer service line. Really, I have seen people do 180 from, there's nothing I can do to help, and I would say, and I'm thinking in my mind the Hapono Pono process, and all of a sudden, when I said something like, well, I appreciate your help anyway, they'd say, well, wait a minute, there might be something I can do. That is the power of sending love and connecting with love rather than with irritation or anger. The love within each of us is connected to every other person on the planet. It's like that spider web. It's really strong, and we just sometimes don't think to use it. So learn to remove your veils and tap into that and be the doorway of the infinite becoming the finite. So in summary, remember we talked about love being like air. It's required to live and thrive. Love can connect us across miles, and it's an invisible connection, like the young men who brought in their 5th member just because they so much wanted him to be there. And remember to use Hapono Pono, that healing mantra practice, because it can make things right. It really spreads love and aligns our hearts with the hearts of other people. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it that I so easily and willingly know that love is like air, vital to thrive, and it lives within me, connecting me to everyone? How is it that I so easily and willingly know that love is like air, it's vital to thrive, and it lives within me, connecting me to everyone? And as we conclude our month, just remember, love is always the answer. Let's pray. So we take that deep, nourishing breath that settles our selves into that calming place. And we tap into that divine being, that love, that joy, that peace, that freedom, that ease, that grace, knowing that each of us is part of that divine being. It is our divine inheritance to have all of that love and joy and peace. And that love lives within each of us. And what I know to be the truth is that each of us is learning through this process of loving from within, through this process of learning to use Hapono Pono when things are seeming tense, that there is within each of us the realization that we are a doorway for people to recognize love. That we understand love by being in the presence of other people who are loving, and by being loving ourselves. So I am so grateful. I am grateful to know that the God without is that God within me. That God without that abides within me and every person on this planet, allowing the love within to change how the world is. So it's from that gratitude of knowing all of that that I release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, because I know the truth. Wherever I am, God is, and God is very well pleased, has already called all of this done. So I can just say amen. And together we affirm it. And so it is.